ladies and gentlemen, that panel discussion will happen in just a while. But before that, India is going digital day by day. There are more and more services that are made available online, and more users upload their data online. Security of data has become a cause of concern in today's world. To educate us on this topic, which is safeguarding yourself from cyber criminals, we have with us Mr. Pratap Reddy, IPS, Additional Director General of Police, Criminal Investigation Department. Please put your hands together and join me in welcoming, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Pratap Reddy, IPS, ADGP, CID, and he will be talking on safeguarding yourself from cyber criminals. He already deals with a lot of criminals. I think we should make him happy with a round of applause, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, I had a brief final minutes of Binu's talk regarding integrating all the applications in the hospitality industry, how you can go mobile and how you can use IT infrastructure to enhance the business. I am here to share with you a few thoughts. As we go increasingly digital, and that is the focus around the world and in India, what is that concerns when you go back home and get your night's sleep? What wakes you up? One of the major challenges what we are seeing is, before coming here today morning, we had a press conference in our CID. 2 foreign nationals arrive on a tourist visa into India on the 1st of September. They are scheduled to return on the 19th of September. They left from UK, arrived in Bangalore. Typically, you would find that the tourist who comes to Bangalore or any other city around the world would be that he is on a sightseeing trip, trying to explore the cities, the country, culture. But here are these 2 tourists who came with a specific purpose of collecting huge dumps of card credentials, both ATM and credit card credentials. Each day they go around, install the skimming machine into one of the ATMs around the city. They survey it, and they survey and ensure that the ATMs with the highest footfalls are installed with this. Next day morning, go back, collect the equipment, download the data, transfer it on a peer-to-peer platform to their gang leaders in elsewhere, anywhere in the world. So we happened to come across these people, apprehended them, and when we realized these people have been traveling all around the world doing only this. Now, when we talk about cyber crimes, cyber security, particularly in hospitality industry, let us not restrict ourselves to credit card or card credentials. I think hospitality industry is one which holds, apart from most probably the government, personally identifiable information of the highest order. Because when you check into a hotel like this, if you are traveling from a foreign country, you have every detail of a passport, your travel document, your travel schedule, and your credit card details. I don't think any other agency, apart from the hospitality industry, particularly who operate rooms. When this is the scope and diversity at which level the confidential information is held by the hospitality industry, do any one of us pay that kind of attention regarding data breaches? This year, all of us read about all these huge major chains where Wendy's or whether it is any of these major hotel chains where data breaches have happened, where huge number of credit card credentials have been stolen. The reputation of the chain, or if it is a standalone hotel as well, the business would be extremely affected. We need to be concerned because in cybersecurity we keep talking about people, process, and technology. Lot of emphasis is there on service, how to enhance service which attracts customers. But take, for example, a hotel like this. Do we have a view on how many of the point-of-sale machines that are deployed in this particular hotel or any other hotel? And who is responsible as these POS machines keep moving around in the hotel? Who is handling it? Who is operating it? Does any malware go and sit in it? How often the patches have been put onto those POS machines, which would restrict if any attempt to compromise is attempted. Your centralized locking and room access systems. Increasingly, Internet of Things, like when we are talking about people have a unified view of every aspect of the hotel industry or even for a restaurant industry where the orders are online and on your tabs you give it. The moment we are talking about increasingly unified view, what we are talking about is we are increasing the attractiveness for the potential cyber criminals. Cyber criminals are not really interested in standalone systems because they are of low value. As we enhance the value in our investments into the IT systems and try to deliver more and more services, we are adding a lot of value into those networks. As we add tremendous value into these networks, do we spare that kind of attention to see that the security of these networks and security of these systems, what we are installing, is able to do that? Many of the movies keep showing us, people get like in movies like when cyber criminals take over, they ensure that the particular hero or villain, if he is to be targeted through the centralized locking system, they ensure that the room doesn't open. Is it possible? Your room card access, your HVAC systems, the air conditioning, which is centrally controlled here in this. So we need to build in a culture among our staff, whoever we recruit, regarding cybersecurity, privacy as a key fundamental of this. How often we anonymize the data when we share it internally in your internal file transfers or data. How you are anonymizing and masking the personally identifiable information. Depending on the vendor, simply to supply. I think we need to learn to ask the right questions to the vendor when he offers a system, how well he is assuring you to guard the data that you are going to put in. Because for a vendor, the solution is deployed and billing is taken. Yes, for him also, for big vendors, there is a reputation risk for them as well. But at the same time, for a hospitality industry to get back onto its knees if a major breach happens in any one of your systems, I think that would be a huge impact on the business, that how we are going to look at it. Similarly, ransomware. Recently in one of the Austrian hotels, maybe some of you must have read, people take control of your systems, won't allow you to operate the systems unless ransom is paid. This is a new phenomena, like kidnapping and extortions that happen. Ransomware is a phenomena that is increasingly being seen around the world, not only in hospitality, but in every other industry, even in the health systems, transport sector, utilities, everywhere. Ransomware is another which is a major thing. So I just wanted to briefly stand here and caution you, because while tremendous amount of optimism in the way we need to go ahead, because without the elaborate IT systems and without your centralized reservation systems, without your aggregators, without various components, the industry cannot function. Today, that is a matter of fact. But at the same time, how do we take a look and ensure that we insulate ourselves to see that we stand here guarded and protect your industry? I think with these brief pointers, I would like to stop here. Maybe possibly would like to hear from you. If you have any concerns, if I can answer, I would be grateful to answer that. So they gave me 15 minutes, so I prepared only for 15 minutes. I didn't want to exceed. That is one of the reasons why I restricted myself. But if you, so I think with these words, I would like to wish this convention every success, and would appreciate, as we make investments in the IT infrastructure, I think each one of you would devote time to ask those questions to see that how secure the systems and information you have.
See, as hoteliers, we do take care of our guests in a lot of ways to ensure that the privacy is maintained. And we have a lot of other things to do as well in terms of management. In the middle of all this, we are also required to submit a lot of reports to the police departments and also run around for our licenses many times in many states. I'm not talking about your state in particular, but many other states all over the country. So if we are saved from this trouble of having to liaise with the government all the time to get our licenses for the swimming pool and a public resort license, and you name it, for every small task that you do in the hotel, we end up taking a permission from the department, which could probably be streamlined and made much easier, or probably could be done away with altogether, so we could spend our precious time in doing the better things that you suggested just now to help our guests maintain the privacy. So do you think we can streamline those things? That will also go on a long way to support our government's intention to do away with the corruption today that's prevailing. So it becomes much easier. We don't have to deal with so many agencies to get our approvals and licenses. Would that be made possible, please?
There are two parts to the question. So many agencies, one question, and second is streamlining. I think I would like to answer the part of the streamlining part, because the number of agencies and how it gets restricted, I think that would be purely out of my domain. But I think, yes, in the last few years, if you have seen, there has been a steady progress in the way the processes are being redesigned, re-engineered, and this thing. To give you the example, like the new Passport Seva Kendras that have been initiated in India, the passport issual in India. I think many of you must have undergone the process where you must have gone to the Passport Seva Kendra, where passports are issued, where there is a guaranteed delivery prescribed. Within 21 days, you shall be getting a passport. I think if you are not getting it in 21 days, there needs to be a definite exception, whereas previously it used to take. Similarly, with the regional transport authorities, even in the police particularly, the enforcement functions. If you take, for example, the Bangalore City Police, particularly the traffic which has the maximum interface with the public, I think this is among the most sophisticated systems where the interface with the public and people have been restricted. So streamlining is happening in a big way. And now, whether one is satisfied with the amount of streamlining that has happened or not, I think that remains a moot question as we keep going forward. I think we are doing it, not incrementally, let me tell you. I think it's geometrically, it is not incremental. The definite huge investments are being made to ensure that systems and processes are streamlined, and even the building permissions, and that comes up. Yes, there would be some niggles, many niggles which each one would like to point out. I think those are being taken care.
Lately, there has been a lot of talk about linking your Aadhaar card to your bank account and the personal privacy clause. So, vis-a-vis technology factor, what do you suggest to the hotel industry to do, whether to make every data technology available or to keep it restricted? What is the way forward?
I couldn't get fully, what is that, like Aadhaar and?
there has been talk that personal privacy is a big fundamental right. So you shouldn't link your Aadhaar card to your bank account so that it becomes public. And the same thing is happening in view of technology in hotels. We are getting all the data. So what is the way forward for hotel?
Maybe I think I would be jumping the gun if I answer, because Supreme Court just now decided privacy is a fundamental right, and there is a smaller bench which is going to decide on what Aadhaar and to what extent that linkages would be accepted. I think we need to wait. So each one of us may have our own viewpoint. I think the Constitutional Court of this country is considering there is a bench of the Supreme Court which is going to deliver its judgment soon regarding how this privacy aspect, particularly with reference to Aadhaar, needs to be seen. But that is one side of the story. The second side of the story is world over, like all of us have traveled around the world. As I said, that's why I said, apart from the governments, hospitality is one which sits on tons of data, because as a traveler, when you go into a hotel, you need to prove your identity beyond a doubt, and you give your credentials. Along with that, you have to give your credit card. So all things at one place. I think this is one industry. That's why I said, whether privacy or no privacy, hospitality industry has right from beginning been sitting on extremely sensitive personal information for very long. Now, here when I'm interacting with you, I'm more talking from the perspective of, if I'm a business owner running hospitality industry, I need to ensure that if a customer comes and deposits his passport photocopy, driving license photocopy, and a credit card for guarantee he gives, once he gives, I need to ensure that all that my customer deposits with me doesn't get compromised at my end. So Aadhaar, no Aadhaar, linked, not linked, that's all immaterial. With respect to hospitality industry, right from ages, this is all there in your systems. Maybe in the past it was in physical form, where somebody goes and takes a photocopy of my passport. Today somebody puts it on the scanner and it goes directly into your system. It depends on which kind of software you use, which kind of centralized reservation system, and which kind of reservation management system you use, what billing cycles, what kind of things you use. I think it's all there with you. So let us restrict to see that in isolation, as a hospitality industry, if I am owning a hotel, what proposition I am giving to my customer to ensure confidentiality of his data.
So, I represent a startup, Booking Genie, and we have a product which is a digital vault. So basically, end-to-end encryption of such data like passport and Aadhaar, or so nobody can see that. Basically, on the other end, it can be decrypted and read. So, what is the government's view on this? Like, is it acceptable as a policy, or?
Government itself has launched its own e-locker. So you must have read about it in government. So government also has its own e-locker. I think at the end of the day, there will be a lot of demand, but at the same time, like I think, what is the name? Let me recollect. The other day we are reading Equifax.
Yes, Equifax. Yes.
Equifax, people depended on it. It's supposed to be a kind of vault where like all your data was supposed to be shared. But so there are challenges everywhere. So as you say, the business proposition as a startup, you may be offering extreme security, ensuring that it's encrypted, nobody is able to see end-to-end. All that is possible, and people are increasingly using those systems, including government.
Thank you.
Sir, even as we sit here, there was a bomb blast in the underground in London, and the spectre of terrorism is growing across the globe. And since you are addressing about crime, and cybercrime and terrorism are now getting merged together, how do we as hoteliers face this challenge with this growing dark picture of terrorism and cyber and digital media and all this happening around? Thank you.
I think terror we have seen enough, including our Mumbai attacks on Taj and Oberoi. I think physical hardening of the target is measurable. Like even when I was entering this hotel, you have those barriers which deflate the tires and all. These are all measurable kind of deterrents that which each person can build into their hotel. When it comes to the investments into your IT system, do you have the expertise internally to measure how effective these systems are there? So what happens in securing digital assets and your networks is you tend to depend more and more on external vendors and systems. So when you choose a vendor, you tend to, whereas if you choose to build a physical barrier when coming into the hotel and the gate, you physically know that you have a sense that, okay, this gate will suffice something. So you have that sense. But when it comes to protecting your digital assets, you can say, okay, I have the latest antivirus signatures deployed at my network perimeter or on systems. I have the latest patches and all that. But at the end of the day, you are vulnerable for the zero-day attack. When the attack, you are the first victim of that. The zero-day attacks are those when somebody comes and attacks your network before even somebody realizes that there is a problem. People would come with solutions once they realize that there is a problem. So it is a constant struggle for cybersecurity researchers and even IT solutions companies which deploy it, how to ensure and stay ahead of it. But I think that challenge would continue to grow. But only thing is, we need to enhance our posturing, that is defense posturing, how much we are going and looking into it. Yeah.
Hello, sir. First of all, we welcome your presence and the presentation. Like you briefed your recent cybercrime instance, what's happening in the cities, mostly as a tourist. You mentioned a few major events. How about periodically from the cybercrime department and on a monthly basis, because it's every day, every week, every month, there's so many things happening across the global and our major cities. Because today cybercrime is everything, which is a very major thing. Within a matter of few hours, they can make major damages to the hospital industry, whatever it is. Okay. How about circulating your periodical emails through our FHRA Federation, do's and don'ts, what's the latest happening, like what you mentioned. So it will be widely reaching all our members of the hotels. So to be more cautious and to be the do's and don'ts on what's happening latest ones. So it will be very helpful. This is only a suggestion. And your periodical emails, a monthly email. These are the latest instance, how this all never happened. This can happen in your hotel. It will be very much helpful for us. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the suggestion. And I think that's the path on which we are in. If any one of you follow, say, Bangalore City Police Facebook and Twitter handles, or Mumbai Police Facebook and Twitter handles, there's a tremendous amount of outreach that is being attempted. Now, sector-specific advisories, from your what I can understand is sector-specific advisories. That's a good idea, but my only concern is the bandwidth that is available within the law enforcement to address each and every sector is quite limited. So one way in Cybercrime Center in CID, what we are doing is, we keep interacting with various industry bodies. So your hospitality industry body, except Shyamraju, who is a personal friend also, so with whom we interact. So as an industry body, it will be a good idea to network with the local cybersecurity centers, cybersecurity police and other units which do their work. I think that, we work with NASSCOM, we work with Confederation of Indian Industry and some of these people, and we participate in the seminars, what they organize, and we keep issuing certain kind of, not necessarily we call it as advisories, but whenever the members of the body and association face certain issues, we render them help and assistance. So we would like to see that how we can institutionalize this, suggestion you gave.
Yes, sir. And one more point I would like to mention here. What is the current happenings in the industry? And of course, region to region it varies. And where currently, once in 3 months or once in 4 months or 6 months only, there's a cybercrime department of the local police department. They call the local hoteliers and for the meeting, this what happening, please be alert. And if the same thing is just as a bulk email, today email is everything. And one little step of, from the department and with the coordination with the association, definitely it will reach everybody, regularly on an email basis, alerting the things. It's a suggestion, sir, that's all. Thank you very much.
No,
Thank
I
you.
think maybe we will begin with Shamraj. I think your South
Thank
Indian this thing association, possibly you can begin with us, and we would be very glad to help you out in doing it. And similarly, FH and RA, wherever, like across. I think all the cities, particularly all the major cities and capitals of the state, have decent cybercrime units. And we are very proud in Bangalore. We have one of the best centers, possibly because we sit in the IT capital of India. So we would definitely be willing to render all the necessary.
Could I have one
Thank
last
you.
question? Thank you. So, someone like...
Somebody has to tell me, like, if we are anywhere this.
Yes. Actually, we are all enjoying the interaction so much that we don't want you to stop.
Yeah, please.
So actually, I am a small hotelier. We have 3-4 properties back in Maharashtra, in Nasik. And we all are promoters and owners over here, most of us. The fact of the matter is, all our documents, all our personal documents, PAN card, passport copies, everything, is lying at the office and is accessible to our staff. Every single document. At the end of the day, we are signing so many documents with multiple government agencies, banks, everything, PF forms. It is hard to keep track of things that eventually what you are signing. Eventually there is this one person who comes to you every day and takes your signature. It could be your cashier, your chief accountant. So like my passport copy, my PAN card, my Aadhaar, if I need it, I have to ask my staff for it. The fact is this. So, and so there is at least someone like me signing 30 documents per day, be it checks or anything. So, and I'm sure someone like you is also signing a lot of things, even in the day. Now, expecting everything from the police is also very unfair. It's overburdening and everything. So, what is the safeguard for an owner, from owner's point of view, if we have a big hit? Because every single document of importance, currently, whatever mandatory documents we say, are lying with the office.
I don't know. I'm as clueless as you are in that sense, but I think we need to be careful. I think beyond that, what would I say? Like, so each one of us, not only you, I think, as an individual, like if I am having my many documents, whatever little properties I own or whatever bank accounts I own, I think each one of us are responsible for the documents which we are supposed to keep custody of. So, don't know, like there is no silver bullet saying that, okay, this is the way you go ahead and do it. But I don't think I have a suggestion on that, but we need to be, yeah. I think offline.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. You can personally answer his question. Thank you so much. We don't have time. Thank you so much for that wonderful session. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Pratap Reddy, IPS ADGPC ID, telling us all that the key to stay alert is to stay aware. Thank you so much for that informative session. May I request Mr. Girish Oberoi, Vice President, FHRAI, to felicitate Mr. Pratap Reddy. Please put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen. Keep the applause coming. All right, ladies and gentlemen, apologies that we had to prepone Mr. Reddy's session because he has other schedule, and apologies to you too, ma'am. I'd like to officially invite you once again on stage, ladies and gentlemen. Please put your hands together as I invite Ms. Zing Zhu, Chairperson, China Hospitality Technology Alliance, and she will be the moderator for this session. The panel discussion will be on social media at the tipping point. Please put your hands together and join me in welcoming Mr. Ravi Shankar S., Group Head of Revenue and E-Commerce at GRT Hotels and Resorts. Welcome, sir. Let's welcome Ms. Dipali Nair, Chief Marketing and Digital Officer at IIFL Investment Managers, and please keep the applause coming as I invite Mr. Saurabh Chakraborty, Industry Manager for Travel and Tourism at Facebook. Ladies and gentlemen, one collective round of applause for the panelists and the moderator. Please put your hands together as they get ready to have a discussion on social media at the tipping point.
Wow, we got second round. Must be very excited. Though I do understand you, ladies, gentlemen, a bit exhausted. So we guarantee to make it shorter and make it fun. Instead of sitting there, I would suggest we stand up so we can do a little different. Before we get into the session, firstly, I must apologize for wearing the sunglasses because too many superstars on the stage. You guys are the sunshine. So hello, hi. Before we really start the session, I would like to do a little survey. How many of you sitting here are using social media, any social media, you name it, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, WeChat, WhatsApp? No one? Wow. So everyone, in fact. Okay, the second one is that how many of you really doing any business campaign by social media? Quite impressed, indeed. Wow. That's the reason why we are the team here to talk about something on the social media. Before we start, the first thing we should introduce ourselves. Should I do the first? Do you mind? Okay. As the organizer, MC mentioned that I'm the chairperson for China Hospitality Technology Alliance. Actually, I founded this association 5 years ago, which I thought the industry needed change. To change that, one company, one association is not enough. We must get all the people together, the hoteliers, the technology, the innovation, the fund, the money, to make the whole world a difference. So that's whereby I set up this association. And subsequently, I got almost every Chinese hotel chain and the international chain across the Asia Pacific sitting in my committee. So I'm here these 2 days. I hope also get all connected with India society. I do believe, yesterday, I think last night, your minister highlight, there's huge opportunity here in India. We all should work together by all means. Thank you. Yeah, and then we go one by one.
Hi, good evening. The reason why I'm here is perhaps not because of my current job, where I manage marketing and digital for a new group of financial services companies. My last job was with Mahindra Holidays, and there is a lot of work that happened on e-commerce and digital over there. I also was on a sabbatical last year, and I did a lot of consulting for Internet and Mobile Association of India. I've held positions, leadership positions, where I've managed e-commerce for an insurance company. I've worked with HSBC in the past. I see a oil stall outside. I used to manage marketing for Saffola, at one point of time. So I think the reason Amitabh reached out to me to talk here today is to talk in the context of a digital expert. So here I am. Of course, Saurav, why don't you also introduce yourself, because Facebook is one of the key mediums for social media, at least in India today.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Saurav. I'm a client partner at Facebook. I've been at Facebook for the last 4 years. I've been in the travel domain for the last 8 years. Before Facebook, I used to work with ClearTrip. I was managing the digital marketing for India and 7 Middle East countries. Very, very excited to be here and being part of this panel. I thought one of the things that I will just do is share 2 fun facts. Let's keep it light also, let's keep it fun. So if you're talking about social media at the tipping point, it's because of mobile, the way mobile has grown in India. So if you had to remake the movie Roti, Kapda aur Makan, what would the name of the movie be? Any guesses? So yeah, nearby, Roti, Kapda aur Makan and mobile, right? And there are more mobile phones in India than toilets, I just got to know. So very interesting.
Hi, good evening and namaskara. This is Ravi Shankar. After completing successful 8 years in GRT Hotels and Resorts, work for Taj, Leela, Starwood, Meridian, and very short ending with standalone hotels, I have started my own company and doing consulting for hotels across the globe, the length and breadth of Tamil Nadu and South India. So I am here to digital, Facebook, and whatnot. Combination of all this, we will be able to speak.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. And then I would like to show a few slides and to give you some idea and which we would like to highlight in terms of the social media. What does social media are about? So social media, like this Mr. Facebook highlight, is not just social media. We're talking about the data. That gentleman just had a session talking about the data security. That's whereby I would like to dive a little bit. Next one, how to make this whole thing. The Internet of Things, what does that mean? If you look at the trend of the industry, across all the industry indeed, we are stepping into the Internet of Things era. We are no longer even in the information technology era. We are in the IoT era indeed. That being said, by 2020, there's huge change. Not until 2025, indeed. We are talking about 2020, over 4 billion people minimum get connected. All the machine will be connected. That's translated all about the challenging opportunity business-wise. And then we come to the social media. What does that mean, the social media are about? This is what happened in 60 seconds in the world, which the people sitting in the audience, you raise your hand, contribute to this number indeed. Mr. Facebook can share more later. Yet, this Facebook thing, but Facebook is not only social media, they contribute a lot of business. Social media is not only the social purpose, indeed. Every month, the active users worldwide by June this year. Similar here, you see not only the Facebook, but the YouTube, WhatsApp, and WeChat in China. You look at the WeChat numbers, because China is my home country, you can see how many people are using WeChat to do the payment. I'm not talking about the social media. I'm talking about mobile payment. You heard about Alibaba, Alipay. You heard about WeChat Pay. They have more users than Apple Pay and the Samsung Pay, other pays, indeed. So these few things we highlight, we can start diving into the question next to this lady and the gentleman. What's your personal and the business experience on social media? You guys, yeah.
I don't know if this mic's working. Is this working? You guys can hear me in the back?
No.
Okay. Thanks, Jing. I think I just want to demystify after Jing has presented a global scenario as to what is the scene in India. One is, I think, when we use the word social media, we tend to think mostly of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. When it comes to the travel industry, especially, I think there are a few more sites and opportunities that we must track when we are talking in the context of social media. And at least Saurav and I agree that we should extend this conversation to digital media really, and not really only social media. When I used to be at Mahindra's, there are two parts to this whole social media context. One is listening, which is also called tracking. We used to track about 100 sites or 100 opportunities for social media. And sites such as Mouthshut, TripAdvisor, and the reviews that are going on there are probably today in the hotel industry bigger and more important than what's happening on, let's say, Instagram and Twitter for you. So after Facebook, these are the 2-3 more important sites. So therefore, for your industry, you must always track that when you're looking at social media, which are really the relevant sites that you need to track. There are mechanisms, there are platforms, there is technology, but there are also agencies who are willing to do the tracking for you. And that area is called listening. So it's very important because I see very often that while the bigger players are very active in the area of listening, the smaller players are not. Even if you're a one-property hotel chain or a two-property hotel chain, it's very simple these days to listen in and know what's going on about your hotel, and it doesn't cost too much. So that's one area that I'd like to talk about later. Happy to discuss even outside on, off stage on that. I think the second area is selling, where Binu, I think, spoke very interestingly about all the opportunities that you have available of selling through social media and ensuring that you create a, loyal customer. So his presentation is, absolutely bang on. And Saurav and I were talking. So Saurav, you have a lot of data on what's happening on Facebook in
That's
India,
correct.
therefore, from the Indian consumer. I was also listening to Google guys the other day because a lot of the searches are happening on Google and on YouTube. So there is a lot of conversation, reviews, that's searchable now, over there. So that's also becoming part of the whole buying in the search process in terms of decision making. And I think one must be aware of all that.
Sure. I'll just want to make one point because I know here a lot of everyone from the travel industry is there. And I would say that instead of saying that social media is at the tipping point, I would say the digital ecosystem is at the tipping point. If we just saw Jing present that total there are 2 billion people on Facebook. Let's take the India digital ecosystem. There are 350 million internet users in India, out of which on Facebook we have 215 million people coming every month. And out of the 215 million, half of them come every day. Now, if I look at that, how many of them are travel users? And you mentioned that we have some data. So yes, we have public insights, which is called FB Insights. And I was able to look at some of the India data, and it's really interesting. So if you look at it, there are 85 million users on Facebook who are travel users. And if you look at the kind of 97% of this 85 million use a smartphone. I'm talking a smartphone, I'm not talking a regular mobile phone, which means the travel users on Facebook are already upwardly mobile, they're already niche, they have purchasing power. right? What we are seeing also is how the youth is coming in, how the 18 to 24 is coming in. And what we are seeing is that 72% of the chatter, travel chatter, which is flights, hotels, bookings, and so on and so forth, is happening in the millennial of 18 to 34. So if we look at it, I would say that the social media used as a word, that's something I will not recommend for you to think. How you should start thinking is that, am I able to use user-generated content, and am I able to use my communication with people on social platforms to build my business? And we are seeing examples and case studies on that. I work with OTAs, hotels, airlines, and I'll give you some examples you can go and see on FB for Business on these case studies. For example, if you look at hotels, they are getting 10x ROS on Facebook platform and not just getting likes, comments, and shares. So you have to start thinking beyond the likes, comments, and shares, and I would think that's where the tipping point is.
Sorry, I just want to interject there. And there is this rule of half that I've been looking for the last 2 years. Whichever way you cut the data, if you're not talking about the rural consumer, and I think all of you are talking about urban consumer here in India, okay, roughly half of your consumer is on social media, roughly half of your consumer is on digital, roughly half of your consumer has, smartphones. Whichever way you cut the data, you will realize whether you look at household data, whether you look at women's data, whether you look at men's data, whether you look at people who travel, how often they access their smartphone and active. So if you go by the rule of half, I suspect by 2020, there'll be a tipping point where more than half, which is like huge majority, will be on smartphones, on social media, and on digital. So therefore, if you reinvent your businesses, and if you look at your businesses today and say how each process can be now digitalized, I think that should be the target all of you ought to have in terms of your customer experience journeys.
See, I'm the right person where I will be able to give the live case study. Because digital and Facebook is not direct proportionate to the business where we are in. First, starting from the basics rights, because I happen to meet many hotel owners, brand owners, multiple group hotels. Still, most of them, they did not be able to understand and utilized or incorporated this. Your basics are right because most of the cases, they do have a proper website, which is the homepage kind, where the social widgets. The moment if you click, you will be able to see the 404 error, or if it is page is not set. Start from your page setup, then you'll keep your basics right. What I mean by saying basics rights means listing, keep your content. Killer content is the necessary one. One is post, like, share. These are the generic and all other details. Allow me to share one of our incidents when I was with GRT Hotels and Resorts. Radisson Blu Resort Temple Bay is a 44-acre lovely resort, where we want to do a dedicated marketing communication to promote private pool villa. It costs 50,000 rupees for 2 nights, includes breakfast, lunch, dinner, and one couple treatment. How do we take this into the Facebook promotion? Then we sat together and we brainstorm and all others. Then we find a way that one, Facebook, there is an option called your status, say single, engaged, marriage, and all married. If today, I can't go back and change engaged because I'm a father of 9-year-old boy. So likewise, we did brief the agency to find out how many people changed their status from single to engaged. We got almost pan-India level, 20,000 members has changed single to engaged. So then we sat together, then we identified that one, okay, dedicated emailer from Elango Rajendran, who's none other than the general manager of their property. We said, here is the advance wedding wishes from Radisson Blu Resort Temple Bay. If you choose your honeymoon in our resort, one candlelight dinner is free. That message, we'll use the insight from the Facebook, we trigger it down, great extent, it paid off well. From that, we approached other one, because I strongly suggest that it is no more posting, no more sharing, analyze things. If a target audience, right from kids to child to teens to super teens, young families to senior citizen. If at a property like Ramoji Film City, it caters to everyone. So likewise, if you analyze which is what you want, which medium you want, use the channels wisely. As of today, the sad state of affairs is this channel is not used properly. If you use this proper channel as a one-to-many, many-to-multiple communication channel, then revenue will come to you as a springboard effect.
Yes.
Thank you.
I
Thank
just-
you.
Well, one question to the audience here. How many of you are actually property hotel owners here? Great. How many of your staff is trained to take photographs on various mobiles? Raise your hands. Do you train your staff to take photographs on the mobile? If you actually want to take advantage of social media, that's the one thing you need to do. Because the one thing that people, when they visit hotels and restaurants, is to get their photograph taken. And most often than enough, they ask the hotel staff to help. In fact, your staff should be proactive in being able to say that, sir, let me click a very good picture for you. Because that's what gets you the maximum shares and maximum word of mouth, which is a positive word of mouth for you, on social media. It doesn't matter whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or anywhere else.
Yeah, just one point I want to add to this. So, one very interesting insight is that 67% of the content that is shared on social media, and in our case, I'm talking Facebook and Instagram, 67% of that content is posted via mobile. Yeah. Now, this is a very interesting insight because, as you rightly said, lot of the times, if you look at travel players or the smaller SMB, medium businesses, the mobile sites are not ready. They're still working on a desktop platform. One thing I would recommend is that you need to think that the user has already gone to the mobile phone. They are not really coming to a desktop. The generation in India has skipped directly to a mobile and not to the desktop. So it's very important to build for mobile.
Yeah. In fact, when you're talking to any technology vendor in today's day and age, you should say mobile first. Show me the interface on how it will look on the mobile first. Because that can actually get adapted to the desktop today. So, the world's just reversed in the last 2 or 3 years over there.
Yes, maybe just recap a little bit on what Tim just discussed. And the social media is far beyond the social itself. Social media, we are talking about digital ecosystem platform. Yet, half of the users and the consumers, they are on social media. They are active users. So as a business owner and the operator, hotel operator, you know where you pay the focus and where you do the investment. So in terms of the business-wise, I think the audience should get the message. The next one, for the sake of time, what do you see the challenges by using social media to drive the business campaign?
I think the one challenge that is being faced today is more by the larger companies because they have legacy booking systems and they have legacy, billing systems. And when you're trying to activate new technology, sometimes they don't talk to each other. In fact, that is not a challenge for smaller, hotel managers and businesses because they are in fact nimble. They actually have bought technology which you can move away from very quickly and the investments are smaller. So I see that as an opportunity. I think the challenge that you face is in being able to build the right ecosystem of partners, vendors who will give you the right advice, and then having people, the employees, the talent that you have in being able to manage, the job. The challenge that business owners have today is that 10 years ago, they knew everything about how to run the business. So they needed people who could only execute. Today, their challenge is they actually don't know how to run the digital business. And when they hire junior people who can only execute, then they have a challenge. So you need to have a combination of somebody who gives you advice on a strategy basis and then people who can execute. I don't think the Indian business owners are as yet open to having business advisors who only give them advice.
So for me, I'll take 2 steps back and talk about the creative part, about the communication part. Because if you look at social media, and I'm talking primarily in my case, Facebook and Instagram, they are native feeds. They're native format. They're apps on your phone. You're going vertical down. You keep scrolling, right? So first part that I want to talk about is treat the communication differently. You can't take your print creative, which is normally cluttered with offers or deals, and move it to the social media. That would not work because people are not on social media to look at your brand's message. They're on social media to connect with their friends and family. Understand that. So that's very, very important. The other part is also to understand that it's a self-serve platform. So, and that's what I think the, smaller businesses do it beautifully. But larger corporations still have a problem because they're so used to the traditional media that they're not able to, cross that barrier. So I think those are the 2 challenges.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add?
I can see a lot of strengths, likewise flip side, provided if you use them. Most of the understanding levels are the one classic example day after is the first OD, one day international between India versus Australia after 15 odd years. One of the hotel owner in turn, he approached me to devise a strategy for social media, very short span, 72 hours. Then he said that why don't you do a contest? I said, not a bad idea. We can do, provided it should be reverse engineering, it should be inculcated in 15 days prior, then we need to analyze, shoot out the mail. He said that, sir, we can do predict the team. Such a gambling. We need to understand a little bit of the legal side as well. I see intellectual property right is because you can't use IPL T20.
Sure.
So likewise, you need to understand if you want to devise a contest, do a proper agency, sit with them, brief them. You can say, predict the man of the match because that is not a gambling because it's a lot of components involved there. So analyze that, then you can devise. So that is the killer content will bring multiple business on board.
Thank you. That's where that, and I want to recap a little bit, team just discussed that. And instead of challenges, actually there are the opportunities. This is a shift. It's a wave of transformation. As a business owner, as hotel operator or restaurant operator, you need to realize it is a top-down approach to get your strategy right. And then you need team. They fully aware your strategy, digital strategy. You put everything digitalized. Otherwise, the social media ecosystem on the fly at all. So that's strategy, focus, investment, people, staff. And then you should have the proper tools to make everything happen. So, of course, we also need to think about data privacy and the legal terms, conditions to make the whole thing work. It's really a system and a lot of things to put together. But again, that's opportunities instead of challenges. And I would like, before we, give a one question chance to the audience, I would like you guys to make a conclusion by one sentence. If we're talking about the tipping point of social media, or in other words, the digital transformation and the platform, ecosystem platform, what are the things in your mind in one sentence you would like to advise to the audience?
I think the consumer is no longer chasing room and board. I think the consumer is chasing experiences. And the competition, therefore, is not coming directly from other hotel chains. I know that MasterCard next year globally is going to be launching a website which will only be for experiences. So imagine getting competition from an organization such as MasterCard. So I think that's where we need to think beyond that. A consumer is not coming to you any longer for just a room and just the food. They're chasing completely different things altogether.
So from my end, I would say that the traveler is evolving, and we are seeing that. So the first simple insight that, and this is not a Facebook insight, that today what does a person do when they go on a trip? The first thing that they do is post. Either they post before they're going, actually they do one post before they're going, then they do one post when they have gone there, and then they do another post saying, missing my destination that I'd gone. So frankly speaking, that's the way it happens, right? So the traveler has evolved, the traveler has changed, and there's a lot of cross-device happening. Cross-device between online and offline, cross-device between tablet, desktop, mobile. So it is sure, that's the one word that I would say that is the tipping point. So we have to look at omni-channel strategy.
Yes, that's correct. One sentence.
Time changes and changing times. You need to adopt the latest tools and technology to increase your profitability because already we are doing way forth in margin. So we need to find the ways and means to increase our profitability. So to conclude, this is your business. Keep a proper agency. If not your in-house team is capable enough, give a proper guidance because this is your extended arm. So how well you are treat this, so revenue matters to them.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. To conclude our session, that I want to put this last slide. It looks familiar, but it should be an indication and an inspiration to you. Today, when we're talking about social media, we are actually talking about digital ecosystems. We are talking about the core value of the Internet of Things. Every company is data company. Every business is data business. You look at the top 10 worldwide, the top 10 company, Fortune 100, top 10, they are all data company. Facebook, Google, Apple, Amazon, you name it. So those are set the tone for your own business to think about how to do the transformation. Then social media will give you little indication which all your staff, all your customers are there. Please do something over there. Thank you. We open up only, I think we can only take one question or something like that.
No, I mean, any questions from the audience? Yeah.
Okay, we have a question. We have the time only to take one question. And you are the lucky one, sir. Yes.
So since we still have time, you go ahead.
Today, as a hotelier or restaurant owner or a business owner, if you want to put things on the social media, suppose if you want to put a product or promote some ideas. So there are various platforms like Facebook, Twitter, like other things are there. So is there any system where in one click we can put our ideas or our product or whatever we want to promote at one click to all the medias?
So technically there is. For example, the content management system that you can actually put together for your website and social media can be one, but that's a technology investment that you need to make. So the answer is yes, it exists. But how large is your business and how do you want to make that technology investment is something that you must consider. The second opportunity that you have is that you could work with an agency, a digital advertising agency who would also be willing to offer you this kind of service in case you don't want to make investments right at the beginning and you want to try the whole thing out.
So there is no time nowadays to hire agency. Now everything is self-driven. So you guide us, if you're on this platform, if you can guide us in one small click, every hotelier, every restaurant.
So happy to talk to you outside of the stage in terms of the technologies that exist. But there is an investment that you would need to make to enable your team or you yourself to be able to do it.
Yeah, but can I make one point? I think, sir, the problem is that different social platforms that you have, the content that has to be posted needs to be different. If you look at a Twitter, it's a 140 character. If you look at a Facebook, it's a visual with a story. If you look at Instagram, it's an inspiration. So obviously there are tools, I understand that, but you still have to be cognizant of that. You can't put a same single communication across all platforms because that will not work for you.
So the technology investment that you make is to set those programs where they pick up the relevant content, where you may decide, so one fill that you need to do will be, let's say, 2 pictures and some write-up, and they will pick up the appropriate content for it to go to different places. But which is what I said, that you need to make that investment in the beginning. Of not just money, but time and effort also, to make life easier later on.
To add this, sir, as you asked, there is ready-made softwares available in the market. N number of softwares in the market you can do to start with. You can do right from your Facebook to YouTube to all other. One click, that communication has to be reached to roll out to them. There and then, as rightly said, there is a commercial involved in that. You can, probably we'll discuss on the offline. So.
Okay, that's good job.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question, and thank you for taking the question.
Thank you everyone.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, one collective round of applause, please, for our panel members and our moderator. That was truly a very good session and on social media at Tipping Point. And now I'd like to request past President FHRAI and Senior Most Executive Committee member of FHRAI, Mr. Rajendra Kumar, to please join me on stage here and felicitate the moderator and the panel members. hear an applause coming, ladies and gentlemen. May I request for a round of applause? Thank you, ladies. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir, for doing the honors. All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to our next section, which is another panel discussion on branding strategies for standalone hotels, I'd like to make a few announcements. A few delegates have not registered at the help desk or not even intimated us about their departure time. Request you all to do it as soon as possible. A few delegates have not intimated us about the departure time. Kindly do it right away at the help desk. And this evening, we'll all be moving to Lalit Ashok for a gala evening. There are shuttle services available. 6:45, requesting you all to report at the lobby for the shuttle service. 6:45, kindly report at the lobby to use the shuttle service, which will take you to Lalit Ashok for a gala evening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the last session of this evening. The issue of standalone hotels facing difficulties to increase occupancy is a long-known one. With a view to share information on this issue and find a viable solution, we have a panel discussion. May I invite on stage Mr. Ajay Bakaya, MD Sarovar Hotels. Please put your hands together. Welcome, sir. Ms. Nirupa Shankar, Director, Brigade Hospitality Services Limited. Ms. Nirupa Shankar, Director, Brigade Hospitality Services Limited. Mr. Dhruv Hoon, Vice President, Lodging Development, Marriott International. Welcome, sir. Mr. R. Srinivasan, Managing Director, Radha Regent Hotel Private Limited. Ms. Nirupa Shankar, Director, Brigade Hospitality Services Limited. Well, we'll have to start. Oh, there she is. Oh, that's not her. Well, we'll have to start in her absence. Over to you, sir. Can we have a collective round of applause, please? I know this is the last session, so that should possibly cheer you all up.
I know it might be a little bit of a battle, but can we sit together instead of the other end of the stage? Can we put our chairs together, please? Is that possible? Yeah. There is a gulf, but we don't want to magnify it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. Ms. Nirupa Shankar, Director, Brigade Hospitality Services Limited, has just joined us. Welcome, ma'am.
Okay, we are in business. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience. Thank you for staying back. I know it's always difficult this time of the evening. So in the absence of a formal moderator, I'm the self-proclaimed moderator for the group. Even though we will have some interesting arguments, perhaps some heated ones, this is not a debate on which is a better option, branded or non-branded. The whole idea of this discussion is to see if we can assist standalone hotels in making a choice or making a strategy on how to do better business, whichever direction they wish to take. So we have on stage the past, the present, and the future. There's a fair amount of experience in the panel. I'll allow everyone to make their own introductions. I've been in the business fairly long. I'm part of Sarovar Hotels. And this is the only business that I understand. On my right, Mr. Srinivasan, now an owner of 5 hotels. He is second generation as a hotelier owner. And he's had a journey which stretches more than 2 decades of going from a small hotel in Neyveli to now 5 hotels in Neyveli, Bangalore, and Chennai. Mr. Srinivasan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Good evening, everybody. I've known Ajay Bakaya since 1997, and in fact, he's operating 2 of our hotels. And the first hotel that we started in Neyveli is still a standalone property. Later on, when we came to Chennai to open a new hotel in 1997, we tied up with Mr. Bakaya, Sarovar Hotels, and he's still operating our hotel. The next hotel that we opened in Bangalore, by name Radha Home Hotel, it's a 102-bedroom hotel, which is a Sarovar Hotel again. The other 2 properties are standalone properties, and we will talk about it later, the difficulties that I encountered and how we managed to launch those hotels and make a success out of them. So that's me, Srinivasan.
First on my left, the young lady, Nirupa Shankar, part of a large real estate and hospitality group. This is the future of our industry. She handles a portfolio of half a dozen hotels with 3 different branding companies. Nirupa, a few words from you.
Thanks. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nirupa. I'm a director at Brigade Hospitality, which is the hospitality vertical of Brigade Group, the real estate developer. We currently have 5 operating hotels, 6 at the end of this year. 2 of them are with Marriott, 2 of them are with IHG, and 2 of them are with Accor. But I guess as a hospitality company, we also self-manage some of our own projects. We manage convention centers, we manage clubhouses with about 40-50 rooms, we manage a catering business, so we do a lot of in-house hospitality as well. Yeah, so that's basic introduction to us, and we have a few more hotels in the pipeline under development. Thanks.
And on your extreme right, the young Turk, Dhruv Hoon, from the largest hotel company in the world, from Marriott International. Dhruv is part of their development. Dhruv, just a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Bakaya. I represent Marriott International. I've been with the company for a little over 10 years. And part of the team that does development in South Asia region. As you probably all know that we are a hotel company with about 30 brands. And so we can talk a lot about branding here on this forum. And we manage hotels essentially. We have partners such as Brigade Group and several others with whom we partner and we manage those hotels. So thank you.
Super. So the big question is standalone a good story? Is it a successful story, and is it a story that can stand the test of time? And while I spend all my life telling people something different, the fact remains that standalone is a good success story and has the potential and the promise to succeed at every level. So as somebody who comes from Delhi, there are 2 examples that come to my mind. One is the upper end of the spectrum, the Imperial Hotel. Still working as a standalone property, large number of rooms, has gone through several years of renovations, was 4 or 5 years ago the #1 property in Delhi, ahead of the Oberoi, ahead of all the other competition, still riding high, possible. If you go on to TripAdvisor, etc., I don't know where they stand now, but a 12-room hotel in Delhi called Shanti Palace was for a long time #1 on TripAdvisor in Delhi hotels. So is it possible? Yes, it is. Traditionally, standalone has been for families or individuals who focus and have the time to focus on a single property. And that would remain the key. So either you invest a whole lot of time and do it yourself and add the innkeeper values that large customized conveyor belt hotels cannot offer, or if you're large in scale, you spend a lot of money on bringing in really seasoned, experienced professionals to set special standards for yourselves. Now, let's start with you, Nirupa. You're working on a different scale by doing things yourself for your townhouse, clubhouse properties. And you're working with the IHG group. You're working with Marriott. You're working with Accor as the French multinational for other brands of hotels. So share some experiences with us, and in your world, how well do the standalones stand by themselves?
So our strategy, so I feel it really depends what your strategy is. As a group, our strategy is to expand our hotel portfolio. And it's never been to go with a particular brand. The reason we go with a brand is because of the SOPs that they bring in, the standardization that they bring in, the global distribution system and network that they bring in. So that was our strategy, right? Because we were not looking to do one hotel or two hotels. We have six that operating and maybe 6 that will come into the portfolio soon. So we were very clear that we wanted to brand. And we were clear that we wanted to have larger hotels, so 125 rooms and above, where it made sense to bring in an international brand. However, like I said, there are some projects where we manage in-house. So when it's 40 rooms or 30 rooms, where it doesn't make sense to have an international brand managing it, and a lot of companies don't want to manage such smaller units. So we developed an in-house capability to self-manage some of our smaller properties. And there, I guess, it makes sense to manage it in-house just because it's more cost-effective and you have the liberty to take quicker decisions. They're very localized products, and I think when you have a localized product suiting a local market, then it's easier to manage it standalone because nobody understands the local market better than you, and it's easier to implement decisions and take quicker decisions in that standalone environment.
Two quick questions for you. Would you sort of bracket standalone by size, saying if it's a certain size, it makes more sense, or would you bracket by perhaps city size or market size?
So I think when it comes to standalone hotels, your question is what we would prefer to get in our
Would you, in your mind, say, well, so many rooms, standalone makes sense, or in so-and-so city, standalone makes sense?
So for standalone, essentially, it really depends where is the hotel located and how big is the hotel, what is the target market. So for example, if it's a hotel which is very large, then that hotel needs to be plugged into a system that has got large distribution. You really wouldn't want a Marriott or a Hyatt or a Hilton to operate a hotel which is 20 rooms or 25 rooms, because you really don't need that kind of distribution. You do need a distribution if the hotel is large. You need distribution if you are located, let's say, in a micro market like Whitefield or Hyderabad City in Hyderabad, where business is more RFP driven. You need distribution if you are a hotel that requires a lot of MICE and convention business to come in. So it really depends the size and the location, and also how much is the competition in that market. So for instance, if 20 years ago, a hotel in Bhopal was the only hotel, really didn't need any branding. As a standalone, it worked well. Today you have hotels, international chains that are now increasingly growing in tier 2, tier 3 markets. We've just opened a hotel in Belgaum, for example. We're about to open a hotel in Indore, Jodhpur, Amritsar. So it's just going to get competitive in all these markets, and eventually those standalone hotels will feel the same pressure of competition that has actually happened in Bangalore and Hyderabad and Delhi over the last 15, 20 years. Case in point is the Imperial. Back 15 years ago, as a standalone hotel, Imperial was a great success. But the question is that how long can you sustain that with the growing competition and the talent pool, which is scarce, and going into branded hotels vis-a-vis, you staying unbranded.
Mr. Srinivasan, the man in the driving seat in red-hot operating atmosphere in Chennai. Operating and approval atmosphere in Chennai. So from 40 rooms in Neyveli that was started by your father, to 91 in Radha Regent in Chennai, to 102 at the Hometel in Whitefield in Bengaluru, to Electronic City, a larger hotel, a more 4-star plus hotel, 120 rooms odd, to almost 200 rooms now in Chennai with Feathers. Run us through some of those decisions. What prompted you to go from independent to brand and independent again?
Well, whether to go for a tie-up or not, it's a question of, you can compare it to getting married, in fact. People who are not married, probably they think, getting married will be a wonderful idea, you can have a wonderful, happy life. And people who are married, probably, they are saying that they want to get out and they are happy being alone. Well, in our case, when we started the small hotel in Neyveli Township, my father he started this hotel in 1985. It was a 40-bedroom small hotel, and our friend from Marriott said, it's a small property in a small town, we didn't have any competition and we could survive by ourselves. Even today, we are still doing very well in the hotel. And when you want to build a hotel in Chennai, it's a 91-bedroom hotel, we had all the confidence that we could manage it by ourselves. However, at that point of time, Tourism Finance Corporation of India, I'm sure my friend Mr. Bhem Gupta is also sitting here among the audience, he said, not alone him, they had a rule that if you are borrowing beyond a certain amount of money, you need to have a professional tie-up for managing the property. So that is when we got in touch with Sarovar Hotels, and I'm very, very happy that we did. And at that point of time, it seemed like they were the best company available in India, and even today I feel the same way. I was quite happy. And with all my heart, I support them. That's one of the reasons why we are still with them. And that is how we opened our Chennai hotel, 91-bedroom hotel. From day one, we did very well. In fact, the very first week, we went up to 70-80% occupancy. And thanks to a lot of factors, including the fact that we were one of Ajay's first hotels, and Ajay had all the time to visit us whenever he could and spend so much more time with us than he can today with 70 hotels under his portfolio. So it's also the devotion and the time that the chain can give you to run your hotel, to operate your hotel. That matters as well. And Chennai was very, very successful. Then we opened a hotel in Whitefield in Bangalore. It's a 102-bedroom Radha Hotel, under Sarovar Hotel again. And that is a successful hotel as well. First hotel under the brand name of Hometel for Sarovar. We are still doing very well in that property. And later on, our strategy has always been not to rush and build a dozen or, so hotels everywhere, borrow too much money and invest and get into trouble. We never want to do that. It's a small family-run company where we are very, very conservative, build one at a time whenever possible. And first you borrow, then you build it, then you consolidate again. After you made some money, then you build again. So that is the way we've done all along. And so we've always kept away from financial trouble, whatever comes and goes in the economy. And then we built our 104-bedroom hotel. It's a 4-star hotel in Electronic City. It's a small market, Electronic City itself, like people who are in Bangalore should be knowing about it. It's a very small hotel of only 104 rooms and a small market and small number of companies also. It is not a very daunting task to go out and seek business in that market. So it was quite easy. But at the time when we opened, it was the financial meltdown in 2008 and 9. So it was a difficult task. And the first 10 days we had nobody staying in the hotel. Then 11th day somebody checked in. And the next morning he said, I want to leave. We asked him why. He said, I'm feeling lonely. I'm the only person in the hotel. What do I do? So he checked out. So that is the way we started our hotel. And today that's one of the nice hotels that we have in our group and doing very well, very successful. And about 75-80% occupancy. It costs us about 30 crores to build that hotel, 104 rooms. And because a small market, we decided to be by ourselves and run that hotel, which gave us the confidence again to build a bigger, better hotel. In Chennai, it's a 5-star property that we opened recently by name Feathers. It's a 186-bedroom hotel with a large food and beverage facility for about 10,000 square feet. And in this market, again, the location where we opened in Chennai, we are the only one, and for a radius of about 5 kilometers around our area, there isn't any other hotel, and there's enough business for us to benefit from. However, that market is purely RFP driven. So the first year, it's been a year since we opened now, it was quite an uphill task to market a hotel, to tell everybody, convince people that ours is one of the nicest hotels and they got to start using us. That is a very, very difficult part to start with. But like Ajay mentioned, our hotel is now #1 on TripAdvisor in Chennai today with very high guest satisfaction, and people have commented very good about our hotel. So that has really helped us. And it's a matter of how much time you can devote to your property when you're operating it. And the amount of risk you want to take as well. If it's a huge property like 150, 200 room hotel and you borrow 100 crores or so, then probably makes sense to go for a tie-up because you can't take a chance, that kind of investment. It makes sense to pay a little more money to somebody who can run it professionally for you. However, if you're passionate enough and you have the time to devote, because I live very close to the hotel, and having been in the business for 20, 25 years now, we have a good name in the market, and that helped us attract some good talent and people who know us as family members and are very, very dedicated. So that helped us recruit some very good people who devoted their life to our hotel. That's the reason we're able to run it well. Otherwise, if you had to start a new hotel for the first time, trust me, you'll be very, very safe giving it to somebody who knows to drive your car well.
Nirupa, for somebody who's running standalones, information technology, sales and marketing, chefs, cuisines, housekeeping, engineering services, training, SOP. How does one manage? What does it cost? Is it affordable and cost effective?
So I think it's not a matter of cost, right? I think the cost is somewhat relatively the same, whether you're standalone or whether you're branded. However, you know, maybe at the senior leadership level, see, at the housekeeping level or IT level, I don't think I haven't seen too much of a variation in cost. But perhaps if you're a standalone trying to attract talent, you obviously have a slightly harder time. You know, of course, if you have a great reputation in a company like that, maybe it's easier, but then it's a very localized reputation and things like that. So I think attracting talent when you're a standalone is a challenge, or maybe attracting is okay, but retaining them is a challenge. Because they're with you for 1 or 2 years, or maybe 3 years, or even maybe 4 years, and then everybody wants growth, right? If you're slightly ambitious, you would want to grow. And then is that standalone group going to be able to give you that kind of growth? So obviously, I do think that as a standalone, we do have a challenge, and I see it in our own self-managed properties. Obviously, when you have a smaller property and it's single and it's a one-unit property, there is a challenge in attracting and retaining. And I would say retaining, there is a bigger challenge in retaining that talent because everybody wants growth. Yeah, and so otherwise, in terms of cost-wise, I don't see a big differentiation at the lower level. But it's mainly at the leadership level because, and I would even look at it if, you know, we ran a standalone restaurant as well, you know, and I know the kind of premium I had to pay to get a good chef in or to get a good manager in, because they would rather go with a branded place where they say, hey, I can easily manage 2 restaurants or 4 restaurants in 3 years. Whereas with you, if you're not going to grow, what do I do next? So you have to be okay to let go of that person, even though that person is good, unless you can provide that growth opportunity. So for me, I would say more than the cost, I would also say it's retaining good talent.
Dhruv, 2, 3 huge advantages of a large company. Number one in today's world is distribution. How do I communicate that I exist as a hotel to a large user audience? Number 2 is loyalty programs, and some of these programs have a very large number of members, so you get people coming in. And third, once again, getting into this whole scenario of talent. Does a brand make it easier for you to attract talent? Can you elaborate a little bit about both these and how important these are in different parts of India today?
Sure. So on the first part, when it comes to distribution, there is a lot of investment that is required. There are millions of dollars being spent by hotel companies when it comes to technology. So the new popular acronym is GAFA, you know, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple. So there is information, there is a marketplace on Amazon, there's a product on Apple. And you know, when you look at all these things, the way the evolution of technology has been in the last 7, 8 years, and how hotel companies have adapted to using apps and mobile technology and stuff like that, it is a huge cost. And we saw so many sessions during the day, right from Mr. Nakulanand and the last one as well, we spoke about technology. Now imagine that if the same load of trying to be nimble with technology falls on just 1 or 2 hotels which are unbranded, it's a huge cost to just keep up with the changing world, trying to be in competition. So when you actually ride with a company which is large, that has that sort of distribution, you realize that by being part of that, actually you get all the benefit at a very low cost. So there is economies of scale in those companies because of just the volume of how much they're processing, and you get the advantage on your bottom line in terms of the cost. Of course, you have a lot of advantage on the top line in terms of people who are using your hotels. When it comes to loyalty programs, a company like ours, for instance, has more than 100 million loyal members. And we have all realized in the industry that loyal members will keep returning back to the hotel because they get points, they get miles, they get they can redeem them, and so there is a certain amount of loyalty that gets built in, which is again very important if the market is competitive. We've also seen in recent years when it comes to talent that certain hotel companies have now ranked in the top 15 or 20 as the best places to work. And the key reasons would be, the culture and opportunities to grow. Today's talent is not just looking at the salary, but they are looking at, where could I grow, 5 to 10 years from now. So like Nirupa mentioned that, people join in and in 2-3 years they want to move with the same company to another place. So they will really value working with an organization that can give them growth. Maybe somebody joins at rank and file and can become a general manager in 15 or 20 years. That's the company they would like to work for, and that becomes very critical.
I think at this stage I'll bring to life another real life example, again from Delhi. In an area called French Colony in Delhi, there was an old, largish estate house, 12 rooms. People from the UK who were owners invested good money and came out of the nice hotel. The first, and they started managing themselves, so it was standalone. It's still standalone, by the way. The first set of people, the management team came in, had everything from your front office manager to the duty manager to the night manager to the whole load. And from day one, they lost money because it was only 12 rooms and a small food and beverage operation, no banqueting. So 2-3 years down the line, they lost a whole lot of money, and they turned and they joined hands with Aman Resorts. And Aman said, you know what, we can't flag or brand this hotel for you, but we will manage and we'll market. And guess what? They lost a whole lot more money because Aman had its own style, and the lawns were manicured perfectly. There was no little blade out of place. But again, the overhead costs were too high for a 12-room hotel. So in the third avatar, Rohit Khattar, who runs Habitat Center and has a big reputation now for restaurants, etc., took over the hotel, I think some 8 or 10 years ago. It's called the Manor Hotel. And what did they do? It's commonsensical. They threw away everyone. I'm sure there is a manager somewhere, but you really don't see him. There are no supervisors or managers hanging around. There are boys and girls. They are well educated. They are conversant with the English language. They all wear kurta pajamas, so there's no uniforms to worry about too much. And they hop from a restaurant to a bar service to checking you in and checking you out and sort of chatting to you on what your issues are. And the hotels made a lot of money. Then Rohit teamed up with one of his celebrity chefs, and they sort of sat down and thought of concepts and came out of the concept of the only concept of good quality fusion Indian food that is really, really classy, really nice, mild flavors, and is appreciated both by Indians and by the expat client. You couldn't get a table there till somebody said no alcohol 500 meters from the highway. So I don't know where they are now. So it's all possible. And they made it. The restaurant made it. The restaurant has no fancy interiors to talk about, no interior designer to talk about, white tablecloths. It could be a standard, good quality hotel cafeteria. It's plaster of Paris, paint, no great artwork, no chandeliers, nothing. They made it about 4 or 5 years ago to the top 100 restaurants in the world on the New York Times list. They're now in the top 50. So can it be done? Yes, it can be done. So I'll sum it up here, and I don't want to restrict this to one question from all of you. I'm sure you have things that you want to ask. Basically, if as an owner you have a lot of time to devote and you have the passion, and you have a lot of time to devote over 10, 15, 20 years, it's workable. But you got to set standards that are above other hotels in the area and not play a catch-up game where you're watching what somebody else is doing, say, okay, I could do something similar, because then you'll fail. You have to have strategies where you're going to be able to bring in good people. You have to have a system that trains those people, and you really have to motivate those people, whether you do it out of service charge, or loyalty bonuses, or retention bonuses, to have those people stay on and hang on with you and feel good about staying with you. So let's, at this time, open it up to the audience. Questions you folks want to ask of ourselves before we carry on with unidirectional dialogue, monologue. Any questions, guys? We can always rely upon you.
For carrying on with the marriage for so many years with the same man, normally they get fed up and they say, I want to switch. And there must be something in you and something to, and how to understand each other. Which is your best brand out of the brands that you brought out? Is most successful? That is one. And for JW Marriott also and the others, a question like when you take on, at what stage do you take on? Is it at the stage of planning, feasibility, everything, or if the hotel is already standing? And I've seen a lot of owners crying, he said, I've gone bankrupt, I've lost all my money, whether it was Jaipur, it was other places, they have gone totally broke. So that is the thing, that is the time you have to see if you can take on, and if you can take on, what kind of expense will be involved in that. And incidentally, the Friends Colony, of course, that's gone out of the city, is coming to the city limit now, highway. So New Friends has got it, and then the Sarovar has got it. Sorry, Surya has got it too. So they are a happy situation.
So to answer your questions, when we started with Sarovar, we did not have our own brands. So we started with Park Plaza and Park Inn, which later became Carlson brands. And here's an interesting story. About 12 odd years ago, Carlson said to us, all our brands have to have the Fidelio Opera software system. If you don't, we can't run. So we had a meeting with the Asia Pacific head of Carlson, with the Shagun Sani of Opera, and myself. And I said, you know what? I have a park-in property in Badrinath. Takes you 2 days to get there from Delhi, 2 days to come back, at least a day's work. You can't do it on remote. These things don't work. Can you handle that hotel? And Oprah said to me, no, we can't. So I said to the gentleman from Carlson, I said, look, why are you pushing it? And he said, you know, Ajay, you're right. Absolutely. I understand what you're saying. Give us 2 weeks, we'll come back to you. In 2 weeks' time, they said, while we understand the problem, sorry, it's a global decision. We have to go with the Fidelio or nothing. We're happy to lose hotels. And that is a stage, and I think to a certain extent we have to thank them for the push, that we developed the Sarovar Premier and the Sarovar Portico brands. And a whole lot of Park-ins shifted from Park-in to Portico, and the brand came on. Which is my favorite brand in my stable. It's Hometel. It's the most cost-effective to build. It guarantees you GOPs in excess of 40%. But owners don't like it because it doesn't give you the big room and the big lobby and the big restaurant profile. So I think there are 2 restrictions in India. One is land is too expensive. So if people are then building a hotel and they're spending so much money on the land, he said, look, I don't want to do a budget hotel. I'd rather do something fancier. And that's a profile I want to have. But to my mind, the Hometels, the Fairfield by Marriott, the Ibises, the Holiday Inn Expresses, you just can't go wrong at all.
So you had a second question as well, so I'll just answer that. We have 6,200 hotels worldwide, and our largest brand out of the stable is Courtyard by Marriott, which is over 1,000 hotels. So that has been extremely successful globally as well as in India. One brand that did very well for us in India is JW Marriott. When we opened our hotel in Mumbai at Juhu, that had a halo effect, and really that is what put us in the lead when it came to hospitality for us in India. Your second question was, what is the right time to get involved with the hotel? So ideally, we would like to get involved at the drawing board stage before anything is really decided in terms of facilities, etc., so that we are in it from the beginning. But there are times when a hotel is being converted, it's a running hotel, the term comes to an end, or somebody's deciding to go with a brand. So we do look at that, and that is always a possibility, and now we are seeing increasingly a lot of those. But ideal would be to get involved right in the beginning.
Yeah, Paramjit Bhai from Bombay, the Unicontinental. Well, branding strategies for standalone hotels. Most of us sitting here are all medium and small hoteliers, individual standalone hoteliers. And what I've been listening more is about standalone hotels with service, large chains, pros, cons. what we all need here is one small mantra or some mantras about how do we brand our small individual standalone hotels. That's what we all want to listen to. If you can give us some tips, some mantras, some jadoo, something, how do we create our brands? Thanks.
Thanks for the question. Yeah, I think, like, even I was thinking about this, and I think the way standalones can stand out, see, there are few advantages of being a standalone, right? You can create extremely personalized service. You can be very quick in your decision making. For instance, and in any changes you want in your product. For instance, you know, a lot of the brands come in with certain brand standards saying you need a business center, you need this, you need that. And I was thinking, okay, how do you be more relevant? How do you make that product more relevant? Like, for instance, a standalone restaurant. Everybody knows about co-working spaces now. You can create, say, a co-working space in your lobby, and you don't need to go through Singapore and US and, you know, many other levels of approval to make that decision. So I think your ability to respond to changing market dynamics is a lot easier. So for instance, figuring out, okay, what the millennials need in that particular location, you'd be able to know whether a co-working space in the lobby makes sense for your hotel. And I think innovation is very easy. If you look at standalone restaurants, right? I think a lot of restaurants and branded hotels have a lot to learn from standalone restaurants because of the innovation and the concepts with which standalone restaurants come up with. So for me, I would say you know, standalone hotels have that ability or the advantage because they're able to give that personalized service. And we were discussing this earlier, that a lot of the #1 ranked hotels on TripAdvisor are usually standalone hotels because the owners take that extra personalized service. They're able to push in good reviews just because of the additional care that they come in. So I would say for standalone restaurants, their advantage lies in the ability to change to changing market dynamics. So that's what I would say, the ability to take quicker decisions.
So magic, there is no magic mantra that we can give you here which will make things work. But two things to keep it really, really simple. Keep it spotlessly clean. That's the biggest problem in the smaller hotels, in the smaller towns. Bigger problem in the big hotels too. But it's a huge problem. Spotlessly clean from point of view of uniforms of people that you see, from point of view of elevators, the jam outside the elevators, from anywhere that I can pass my hand through, that it should come out without dirt, from the bed sheets, from the hygiene on the mattress if you strip the bed sheets, from the loo, you know. So clean is still important. We're still using the 100-year-old system of you have a little plastic, the paper band around the WC, you say sanitize for your protection. Either it's clean or it's not clean. I don't need a rubber strip to certify that. So, you know, hygiene is critically important. The other thing is food. And that's an area where the structured hotels are slowly pushing themselves out of business and are dying. So food needs to be good. Food today needs to compete in terms of presentation and taste with the standalone restaurants, the dhabas, the clubs that are operating around you. The systems that we did forever and ever and ever, throw things on the buffet and he'll come and eat and go away, are not going to work much longer. So food and hygiene, if you can get these two factors right, you're on the right path.
Thank you, sir. With me coming back on stage, that can only mean that we are done with the session, but yes, I'm going to allow you to ask your questions, sir. Please go ahead.
Good evening, all. This is Girish. Sir, we would like to know the present scenario after the GST in hospitality, especially in India and Metro. What is the thumb rule of investor? Let's assume a lot of investors are here, operators are there, property they were taken on lease, as you said, land cost and everything more in India. Any thumb rule, if a standalone hotel between 30 to 40 keys, 10 crores, 20 crores, 30 crores, 40 crores, what is the GOP? What should be their return of investment? Is very, very critical factors today. A lot of investors wanted to come, from IT and different field. What is the message from you? And hospitality tycoons are, especially Mr. Ajay, came from the best Oberoi brand, started, heard, I seen in a small way to you. Any thumb rule, sir, for 10 crores, when the money is going to come back? What is the ARR? What is occupancy? As you said, some jadoo, because it is very...
The thumb rule is, make sure your eyes are open. That's the first thumb rule. If you are planning a hotel and dreaming about it, it's not going to work.
Okay, sir.
And we keep conveying this message again and again and again. So, when people talk about hotels, they say, I'm doing it hotels for a place. And I say, but where is the demand? Where is the business going to come from? I say, don't worry, it's all there. When you talk average room rates, you say, I think it's going to be 3,000 rupees in that market. You say, no, we'll do 5,000. So, first rule is get your facts right. Go stay in other hotels, try to negotiate, see what kind of a rate you're going to get, work out the proper occupancy. By and large, for a new hotel, 60% occupancy or anywhere between 50 and 60 in the first year is realistic. Anything too high is too little. You can even start at 40 depending on where you are. To my mind, anything less than 40 to 50 rooms is not really viable. So that should be your size. So first of all, your cost of putting up a hotel, if you're doing anything at a reasonable 3-star level, is not less than 30 lakhs a room. No swimming pool, laundry outsourced, one restaurant, maybe a bar, and rooms of 250 square feet or more room base. If you think you can do it in less, you're only fooling yourself. So first, this is what it's going to cost you. This is what my revenue is. Average room rate multiplied by occupancy, multiplied by number of rooms, multiplied by 365 gives you a room revenue. You add a certain factor for food and beverage, and you have your gross revenue. In that segment, you will rarely get GOPs ahead of 30%. So when you're planning, you plan at a 25% GOP. So when you do the sums, if your GOP covers first year interest repayment, you should build the hotel. If it doesn't, forget about it, do something else. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Girish, for that question, and thank you for answering.
One thing you should always remember is don't go on an ego trip when you're building a hotel. Don't try to build a fanciest one in town. And make sure that you build a hotel that your customers can afford, not what you can afford. Always remember that.
Absolutely. Well said, sir. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we come to the end of that session and on the topic, which was branding strategies for standalone hotels. Let's put our hands together and thank our panelists here for that very interesting talk. I'd like to invite on stage Mr. Jose Pradeep, Executive Committee member of CEDA, to please come on stage and felicitate the panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep the applause coming as I welcome Mr. Jose Pradeep, Executive Committee member, CEDA, who is felicitating the panelists on stage. Request for a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. That was truly a very good session, I must say. And they deserve a round of applause. Please put your hands together. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, gentlemen. For those of you who are leaving the hall, there's something very important coming up, so I request you all to kindly remain seated. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, let's welcome Mr. Amitabh Devendra, Secretary General, FHRAI. Please put your hands together and join me in welcoming Mr. Amitabh Devendra.
Good evening, delegates. First, a small housekeeping announcement before the big one. All the restaurateurs are requested to come tomorrow morning at 9:15 a.m. at the Pennar Hall, and the contact person whom you have to meet is Mr. Venkata Subbu, President, Tamil Nadu Hotels Association. Now to the important one. Since 1986, FHRAI has had a long-standing association with the Hotel Association of Nepal. This agreement has been renewed and will continue for the future. The only difference this time is we have friends from Bhutan who are also part of this agreement. It is now a tripartite agreement where our card is valid, goes international, and is valid in 2 more countries besides our own. I'd like to invite on stage my president, Mr. Shama Raju. I would also like to invite Mr. Paladin Thinley Dorji, the president of the Bhutan Nepal Association. I would also like to invite Mr. Sonam Wanchuk. Please come on stage, sir, from Bhutan. I need more chairs. I need more chairs. I would also like to invite Ms. Sangeeta Rana, Secretary General of the Bhutan Hotel Association. I would now like to invite Mr. Girish Oberoi, Vice President, FHRAI. I would also like to invite Mr. Datwani, Vice President, FHRAI. I would also like to invite Mr. Walia, Vice President, FHRAI. I would like to also invite Mr. Podar, Executive Committee, FHRAI. I would like to invite Mr. Sanjay Sood. Where is it? Vice President, please come in, sir. Vice President, FHRAI. Agreement is not here, sir. Agreement is with me. Where? Oh, I didn't know that. It's gone. Okay. My president also desires that any EC members who are present here may kindly come on stage. All members of the EC may kindly come on stage. Sir, sorry. Let everyone hold one. Let. A round of applause for the agreement that has been signed between 3 countries, fostering exchange in marketing, cooperation, skill development, arranging for student transfers, exchange of students, allowing our people to work there and those people to come here and work in our hotels. Besides, of course, acceptance of our cards, their cards in India and our cards in their countries, at a discount. The agreement will become operational in 2 months once the logistics are worked out. Thank you, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, one small housekeeping announcement. Tomorrow morning we are starting a session sharp at 10 o'clock. Look forward to welcoming you all. What's our first session tomorrow? The first session tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you interested in hotel financing, it is hotel financing. Paladin?
Thank you, Mr. Amitabh Devendra. And what a truly proud moment, ladies and gentlemen. We've just showcased the agreement, the tripartite agreement between India, Nepal, and Bhutan. I think that calls for a round of applause. Please put your hands together. This moment truly calls for a roaring round of applause. With that, of course, there's no prize for guessing that we come to an end. This is day 2 of the 52nd FHRAI Annual Convention 2017. Few announcements before we call it a day, ladies and gentlemen. The transport coaches will leave for respective convention hotels right away. Please enjoy your refreshments and make sure that you catch your respective buses. Coaches from Convention Hotel to dinner at Lalita Ashok will leave at 6:45. Kindly report to the lobby of Shangri-La to be picked up to go to Lalita Ashok at 6:45. You will be picked up. Please note that the timings is 6:45. 6:45 we'll have coaches from Convention Hotel to dinner at Lalita Ashok. Also, ladies and gentlemen, this was truly a very informative session. I hope that we all get something to take back from today's session. This is day 2 of the 52nd Annual Convention of FHRAI 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you all at Lalita Ashok. Till then, enjoy your evening and bye-bye.